so.
Off we go then. Well, since you're the visitors, you have the opportunity to speak first.
Well, my name is Dennis Hendy. I live at 537 Whites Camp Road, Fairfield. And I'm the vice president of the P.E.G Fairfield Pond Association. And after the last select board meeting, we sent out a link to the public to access with the recording of the meetings and asked members of the Pond Association to give us feedback, whether they were for, against, or no opinion regarding the project. And the results are 66 people oppose, 4 people support it, and there's nobody, 2 people who have no opinion. And the other thing I'd like to bring up is when we put the balloon up, I observed the height of the balloon from several locations on McKinsey Road, Pond Road, and around the pond locations. And my observation is the height of the balloon is noticeably above the tree line. And I feel that the turbines will dominate the ridge. And my third point is I would like to, let's see, let me get back here for a minute. So the town plan on page 38 states that commercial projects must not be in scenic areas. And the Fairfield Pond ridge line has to be protected, and that has to be one of the scenic areas. So I'd like you to consider those things. And,
Right, it's a fairly long process, right?
Could you see the balloon?
You know, I looked for it, but I couldn't find it, because I went down McKinsey Road as he had suggested that I do. However, I did see simulated picture of what those turbines are gonna look like, and it completely destroys the scenic beauty of the ridge line as well as what's available for use on the pond. And I've been, excuse me, I'm sorry, but I've been doing some research, and I have found verbiage from excerpts that support how that can be, that information, that writing can be applied to being utilized as opposition for this. And I have provided to Brian that information for his scrutiny, let's put it that way. And there's a lot going for us if we utilize some of this research in whatever is created to prevent I'm not used to being in this position, so give me a minute, okay? There's a lot that can be created to use as opposition, but I feel that it needs to be looked at very carefully, because definitions are very interesting, and I'll just stop there. Can you expand any on what I'm trying to say?
Oh, did you have some prepared remarks that you wanted to share?
Yes, I'll read those.
Yeah, why don't you just...
Okay. This is in response to Brian's request for information. I do not support this project for many reasons. Following is some of my thoughts. This project needs to be stalled so it provides more time for Fairfield Pond and other parties to report, to provide supporting evidence that the proposed project does not meet the varying concerns inherent to the preservation of Fairfield Pond and its ridgelines. 2, the wind turbines project is designated commercial. Commercial implies a business with a business plan that outlines an analysis of its goals, financial planning and a budget, etc. It should also include the study that identifies the best energy production, wind turbines versus solar panel grids. Has Fairfield Pond requested this document? What studies has Fairfield done to support solar panel grids? What studies have been made by wind turbine folks to support their obsession that wind turbines are best? Solely that the landowner said he didn't care about money, he wants to save the penguins, that solar was not a consideration, who is the landowner, and what is keeping him from being identified? The landowner also states that the proposed project would invest $1 million, which he states will circulate 7 times in the local economy and help the community. Please request supporting documentations to support this claim. Who is benefiting from this project, and in what way will the generation of electricity benefit the people with full-time residents or summer residents on Fairfield Pond at the expense of degrading the beauty of one of Fairfield Pond's ridge lines? The responses provided in your email of the individuals representing the wind turbine project do not exemplify professional behavior. Responses are flippant. I believe these folks believe they have a game plan and that they will win this case. What is the game plan of the Fairfield Pond so they will not win? I propose that Fairfield Pond needs to develop a mindset of intent to win. Once that intent is established, the energy changes and ways and means to succeed begin to manifest. 5, what lessons were learned from the last ridgeline success? How can they be applied to this new wind turbine project? 6, many years ago, I had experience working with public utility commissions. I highly recommend reaching out and getting to know the members of the Vermont PUC and asking questions, etc., that would help in winning the case. Number 7, I feel that this as communications develop, i.e. the planning boards, etc., forceful new wording is incorporated that firmly implants new guidelines that makes it very apparent to future developers under no circumstances is Fairfield Pond a target for development any kind. 8, the proposed wind turbine plan discussed how, if won, this would benefit the state and federal energy CO2 guidelines. I feel this is a marketing add-on to support their case. What if the electric grid fails? What plans are being developed state and federally to resolve this possibility? 9, I can't find the email where I read that the Swanton Solar attorney would be knocking on the door and that he was an adversary. What can be put in place so that he is put at bay until other concerns can be resolved? 10, even small wind turbines have an effect on migratory birds. Fairfield Pond has geese flying in the spring and the fall flying over Fairfield Pond. Additionally, the flying of eagles over wind turbines would endanger these birds. That bird fatality is part of the collateral damage in the maintenance of wind turbines. It's not acceptable. Now, the ANR, the Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, is responsible for the conservation and management of Vermont's forest resources, the operation and maintenance of the state park system, and the promotion and support of outdoor recreation for Vermonters and our visitors. In addition, FPR is responsible for the acquisition, planning, coordination, and administration of all agency of natural resource lands. Do solar panels produce more electricity than wind turbines? Their result, over the course of 14 months, the solar panels produced about 5 times as much electricity as the wind turbines. In the United States, wind power is significantly more popular than solar. Out of all renewable energy produced in the U.S. in 2019, 24% came from wind, while 9% came from the solar power. When talking about the advantages of wind turbines, its unpredictability is an energy source is arguably its largest weakness because wind doesn't blow continually and therefore an inconsistent source of power. Next in the list of disadvantages are the placement and size of wind turbines, as they need to be installed in places where there are no obstacles that will block the path of the wind. And their tall size means that they will produce visual clutter around the property. Additionally, wind turbines produce some noise and wind running, and they have higher maintenance requirements due to them having moving parts. I hope that my comments would be food for thought for this matter further. And I just want to add another thing, and that is that I did some research into U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as it relates to bald and gold eagle protection. And this information is very informative. And there are also, just a minute, give you a minute. And there's in migratory birds, there is verbiage in conjunction with that as well. In addition, a violation of the Act would result in a fine of $100,000, $200,000 for organization, etc., and imprisonment for 1 year or both for first offense. And I did bring this for anybody who's interested in looking at it. Any comments?
Just kind of absorbing it all for
Yeah, thank you.
So, did you, why did they, why is it choosing wind turbines over solar?
Well, you have to ask David, I don't know if he's on, just,
He's not on, but
what he had told, so Greg Pierce on the site visit, I was just gonna debrief the site visit, some of the things
Yeah.
that Bobby just talked about. There's a pasture, and what David Horgan said, he would prefer to keep the pasture open, that's why he wants to go with wind. You know, beyond that, you'd have to ask him.
I think another thing that we have to be aware of too, and if, as a town of Fairfield and as residents of Fairfield, if we allow this to happen one time,
Yeah.
what's to prevent and not to keep the door open
Right.
for everybody and anybody, smaller sizes, bigger sizes, and you know, why Fairfield? I mean, put them in Burlington, that's where the people like them, put them right all downtown Burlington, line up Church Street. You know, leave our beauty here, that's why we live here. We live here because we love the land, it's the beautiful hills, the sugar woods, the beautiful farms. And I mean, how many times have you driven back and forth on the interstate or anywhere around Georgia? Those things are stuck no matter where you come from, where you go, whether you're on a snow machine, ATV, car, interstate. I mean, that's all you see. And there's a beautiful mountain just ruined for something that produces electricity 30% of the time. And you know, I feel like for someone making a lot of money, they're ruining my life, our life. We live out here because we love where we live. So why should someone ruin all of us who live here for the sake of green? And besides, Vermont isn't going to fix the world.
No.
I mean, we're the smallest state. I mean, you go to Texas, they don't even recycle. I mean, they don't even have solar panels on any other places. We have relatives there. We laugh. And you know, so Fairfield isn't going to fix Vermont, and Vermont isn't going to fix the United States.
not according to the politicians in Montpelier.
Well, you know, in a couple of years it'll get flushed, and then it'll be just the opposite. And
I don't
everybody.
disagree with you, but I do sometimes say, how is one population of 600-some thousand people, not a dinky city, that's going to change the whole world?
Yeah.
But make it more encumbered upon the 650,000 residents we have.
And who's going to pay the price? I mean, who pays higher electricity? Who's going to pay for the maintenance of these things? I mean, who pays just physically looking at them? I mean, it's us. And it's not just Fairfield, it's the whole state of Vermont. I mean, because one governor said, you know, that we have to produce, or all the electric companies have to buy 20% of the renewable energy. And just look at the higher costs on your electric bills. I mean, I don't know, I can rant and roar for a while, but anyways, I think that's a big problem is if we allow this to happen this time, how do you ever stop the door from being closed?
Of the 66 people that you had on there,
Mm-hmm.
did they give a reason why they were against it? Was it aesthetics or financial? Or?
Some did through internet and emails, but a lot of people who just said, I oppose it.
excuse me,
Yes.
David requested that you state your names for him.
My name is Dennis Hendy. I live at 537 Whites Camp Road in Fairfield.
And, would you introduce yourself to David?
Yes, my name is Barbara Green, I go by the name of Bobby. I live on the west shoreline of Fairfield Pond, across from Ron Bocash.
Okay, thank you. Our fourth.
Thanks, guys.
This is our fourth board member who's zooming in, so appreciate it.
I do know the developer said a couple times on regional planning and a couple of times, he is, to answer your question about why wind and not solar, it was that David Horgan wanted the PUC standard offer contract. And the PUC does offer standard contract, it's like 25 cents a kilowatt, adjusted for inflation. But they also offer that for biodigesters and solar. But that was one of the, just to try to give you the answer, what I heard, the developer said, standard offer. But you could go, it's my understanding, you could go either way.
Either way, yeah.
That's what it says on the PUC website, it says it. And it also differentiates big wind and small wind. And it's 100 kilowatts. And this is a total of 150 kilowatts, which would be big wind under the PUC standard offer. And I think that has some impact because the word commercial is a word that we use in our town plan. And if it's big wind by the PUC, that would imply it's commercial. To me, I mean, but as Gavin said, this is the start of a long process.
And I wanted to mention that it's my understanding that at this point, all of the questions are supposed to be answered by, all of the questions that have been presented to the engineer are supposed to be answered by him and then compiled along with all of the photographs and the activities that they have done into something that is then presented to the select board. And then the select board can determine whether or not they will support it or not. And moving forward, what he was hoping for was a letter stating the position of the select board to go in the package that would then go to the state as with their application for comment for a permit of common good. Sorry. Certificate of common public good. So that's what I understand at this point, and that process, we're still in the window of him answering. So it's not all compiled. I don't think he's answered all the questions yet. But at some point he will bring that to the select board, and he didn't give me a timeline on that.
Those wind towers on Georgia Mountain, does it Burlington Electric that gets the power from those at this point?
I don't know, but I know Burlington Electric buys, at one point Burlington Electric was buying the RECs, the renewable energy credits, and then selling RECs out of state. So I don't know the answer to that. I think they do buy the power and the RECs.
Because this one, does it state when they do this where that power gets used or sold to? Do you know or anything?
I think they made a statement. They said it would go to Velco, which I think is going to, for a local. I mean, that's what the answer we heard when you asked it last.
Right.
That's what. But
I didn't get it. Didn't feel like I got a definite answer, and I was just wondering, because some of these things is like one thing if they support our own electrical needs, in my mind, but if it's all out of state for tax credits for different people.
I don't see how it could support our own needs. I mean, it goes out onto a grid, it runs 30% of the time. I mean, you wouldn't want your refrigerator running 30% of the time being plugged in.
I mean, solar's the same way.
Well,
solar doesn't run 100% of the time either.
True.
So you're always going to have backup sources.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm wondering. Well, again, questions we're asking now and getting information, so when it does come to us, we have an opportunity to have some time to reflect on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it might be good for you, Bobby, to send those questions through Kathy to the developer. I mean, because you're raising questions we don't know the answer to.
Yeah, when you say questions, what exactly?
Well, your written comments, you could forward your, Kathy would be happy.
But it says here that they're flipping people.
Well, you could clean that up and send it to Kathy and say you have some questions that you'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a matter of, they want to give as much information to people that have questions at this point. That's in their interest.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, this is where I would feel more comfortable. I mean, I can come up with something, but I want for your review of it before it goes anywhere.
Well,
I don't.
we're willing to help, but I think the point is questions from the public shouldn't come to the select board.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Questions from the public really should go to the developer.
Okay.
Because we're not in a position, like even Gavin's simple question of like, where's the power? I don't know. I mean, here, so that's what I'm, yeah. And some of those responses, you know, so we sent out to the Pond Association 88 members. And it was a very neutral letter, and we'd be happy to share it. It just said, this was the public access, here's a link, go see the developer's presentation. You know, we did a site visit, some of the comments were made about saving penguins and the economic impact, and we put that in, and then we just said, hey, you know, what do you think? And you know, it's November, it's Thanksgiving week, people are in another stage, people are traveling, and 66 people said they're against. And it didn't take cajoling, and some of them are extensive, some of them are short, but, you know, 4 people
Pretty high
said,
response rate for a survey.
yeah, 4 people said they were for it, 2 people said they didn't have an opinion.
So any letters that are coming in at this point on this, are being compiled and put into that select board binder. I mentioned it in the beginning of the meeting, I don't think you were here yet. So they're all there to read if you'd like to read them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where are things in terms of time?
Well, so the developer had a 45-day advance notice period. They filed with the regional planning, the town, and they, at some point, they got one extension for that. And I think that period is closing or closed. And then depending on what their plan, they're gonna submit a formal application to the PUC. That's the next step. And it's up to them when they think it's best to do that.
Well,
I know one of the reasons they held off is because the PUC likes to see photo simulations with no leaves. So the developer at the last meeting said they were gonna hold off in order to take pictures of the balloon test with no leaves on the trees. So that was one, and you know, he said it's in our interest to do everything we can to make sure that any questions the PUC might have, you know, we would have answers for that.
so at what juncture is the stance that identifies and substantiates our opposition to this?
Well, so this is a select board. You're a citizen, so that is the pond association is another question, you know. And then I think what we will do, and I don't want to get into this, but formally, what I think the pond association does now, it has a responsibility to communicate to the people that responded, the people on the pond, that says, hey, these are the results. What do you want to do? You know, it's
All of the responses that have been forwarded to the developer, all of the questions because it's a public comment period, need to be included in the application that they submit to the state. Everything that they have collected during the window has to go in their package of this is what the town has said. And so that's why written comments are helpful, and identifying that any written comments you would like them by anybody who sends in a written comment, if you would request that it goes to the developer, or if it's specifically for the select board, or both. That's really helpful on my end so that I can make sure that it gets to the right place. But once all of the questions are answered, he said he has to answer the questions, not just get the questions, but answer the questions. Then he compiles all of that information along with the pictures and the application. He said that he would bring that to the select board, and prior to submitting it. That'll be sort of the last thing, and he's hoping that the select board will then submit an opinion on the project to go along with that.
in addition to what Kathy just stated so well, is the regional planning is doing the same thing. They have an obligation. So the project review committee at the Regional Planning Commission is doing the same due diligence in compiling questions as, you know, the select board is doing. I think they have a little more. Both the town and the regional planning are parties they have party status
Yes.
at the PUC.
So if I wanted to change some of what I have here as a comment, I have the ability to do that.
Absolutely.
Cool, yeah. And how soon would I need to get this to?
I think you're gonna wanna, anybody who has comments should probably forward them to me as soon as possible, because I don't have the actual date of when this began in front of me, but I do think the window is closing, for public comment. And once everything has been received during that public comment period, he has to answer the questions that are asked. That's an obligation of the developer.
Did anybody else see the balloon?
I haven't seen
I did.
it. Is it still up?
No, I was gonna give an update, I can do it right now, yeah, so there was a handful of people that came down Mackenzie Road looking at the balloon, and, neighbors and people that either were on the pond email list that were, I would probably say a dozen people were out looking at the balloon. I think Dennis said it really well. I thought I did the math several times about turbine height, tree lines, and then 38-foot of blades, and I was surprised how high the turbines are going to be above the ridge line. And Dennis used the word, it's going to dominate the ridge line. I don't think that's an exaggeration. That's certainly a subjective statement. But Tom Horgan said, 3 meetings ago or 2 meetings ago, he said, well, you got to float a balloon. And I thought to myself, well, I don't think a balloon's going to show us much. I was wrong. I was surprised. The people that saw the balloon were surprised. I took a picture.
I can show the picture on the screen. David, I'm sorry, I'm not really sure I'm trying to figure out how to screen share.
Yeah, the interpretation.
Would you see it from your mother's place?
I don't know when it was.
It was the 2 days before Thanksgiving. And the one thing that was really interesting was
I didn't know about it.
there was one day it was cloudy and overcast, and one day that was clear. And the one thing that and just so that the developer or any interested party doesn't react is I made no statement on the turbine themselves because that is beyond the scope of my expertise. But the balloon, and we had like 8 people verify what I'm saying. If you project this ridge line across here, the balloon was right there. You could shoot a line across, and the balloon was right there. So the top of the turbines was, that's the top of the turbines. Now the size of the blades and the size of the towers, that's beyond, that's beyond my scope. But the one thing that is not subjective is the height of the blade. And that's where I was like, whoa, those are much higher than, I think, the people that came down and looked at it and said, wow, that's gonna dominate the ridge line. That's the word that.
Sure.
So, that's, like I said, the size of the blade, the size of the tower, that's the developers has that obligation. But I do know from doing some research, visual simulations do not correlate with actual projects after the fact. You just Google the internet, just Google it on the internet. There's scientific papers. And I'll just say right now, the site visit, so we did a nice site visit. Peggy and David were very kind, very generous with their time. We had a good frank discussions. Greg Pierce, who asked for the site visit, kind of pushed hard on solar. Dave pushed back. It was all polite. All, well, Ron was there. Yeah, so it was a good, but I was disappointed. And I think it's important to note, at this meeting, the owner and the developer said, you can't see the pond from the site. And I didn't say anything that night, but a town employee told me 6 months ago, he said, "You've been up there?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you can see the pond, so if you can see the pond, you're gonna be able to see those turbines." And when the developer sat here at our last meeting and said, "You can't see the pond from the site," and I've got it on the tape, he either doesn't know the town, doesn't know the site, or he is, you know, and I choose to believe that's what it is. But it's very obvious, you can look right down on the pond. And that's at ground level.
Yeah.
And that's not 138 feet in the air. So, to me, I was disappointed that that wasn't corrected by the owner, because he would know.
Yeah.
And it causes me to, you know, like to say to Jason, you know, we're trying to be really honest with opposition, which we don't want to overstate, and you know, I expect the same from them, and I'm sure we're going to get it, but that was a pretty simple, like, you know, we're not gonna roll over here, and we want to deal with facts, and that was disappointing that it wasn't corrected, that it was stated and it wasn't corrected, and like I said, on the site visit, first thing I look at, you can see all of Mackenzie Road, you can see the pond, you can see certain parts of Pond Road, and you've got beautiful views that are, you know, less activity going to the east. It's a beautiful site. Dave's got himself a beautiful piece of property. And anyways, that's my agenda item debrief. One is you know, the balloon test, which we showed, and then the site visit. And David and Peggy, we had a good, you know, good little run, you know, little solar, you know, wind, you know, good conversation. They're very generous with their time. They're very nice people, and you know, so.
Well, I don't know, there's a lot more we can discuss tonight on this. I'm glad to get the information and different inputs into this. And we'll keep bringing it up and reflect on it. Appreciate you taking the time coming in and giving us more information too that we need to consider. Do you have any other questions before?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
No.
No. Seems to be a general response. But...
Apparently stated.
Mo, you next on the list. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's lumpy.
There isn't more in the budget for once. Okay, so what you got for us, Mo?
You guys want to stay with the chloride for, calcium chloride lake for the sidewalks out there you've been using?
Kind of about the only one we can handle it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's.
You finally got that machine back.
Yeah, and we just got parts for it today on we call it the same here, solitary chloride. Had the gearbox. And anyway, no,
Just-
it's $150 today. But they got some, but it's magnesium chloride, sodium chloride, so it's a color blood, so sodium is salt.
Yeah.
And I know you guys wanna keep salt off of it, so.
Right, I'd like to keep it as good condition as we can.
So the chloride is, calcium chloride is $20 a bag, 50 pound bag.
How much do you tend to go through?
Almost 2 tons. A ton to $800 ton.
Yeah. I mean, I know part of
Depends
that.
what kind of winter you got, you know.
Yeah, you're getting the salt off the highway anyway.
Yeah.
Cause I know in my own, at home, the steps, they got a few pits in it, and we've sealed them 4 times. But it's like, salt off the winter plowing,
And stays.
Pulls up.
And then the $20 bag for that in the blend, they call it magnesium chloride, sodium chloride, that's $11.49 a bag.
That's a 50-pound bag.
Yeah, they're both 50 pounds.
Is there one easier to get than the other, or are they?
I don't know there's any difference. This is through Ace, Greens up there.
Yeah. Gentlemen, do you have a preference on the usage of the salt used on these sidewalks?
I don't think you wanna use much salt on that concrete, but.
No.
That's when we started, that's what they suggested at the time, the calcium chloride. It does have lowest, the temperature worked down 25 below.
Yeah.
This other stuff is 7 below. The magnesium, salt.
Right.
Well, salt. What do you want to stick to the calcium chloride?
I would for the money that was spent on those sidewalks.
You'll be all
Voted on by other members of the board than myself, of course.
I don't, silly question, can you mix it with sand and kind of cut it? Can you dilute it by mixing it, like a percentage that?
I don't know if it's sanded on that system.
Yeah,
It's got the capacity to.
yeah, the unit we got goes on back. It holds like 6 bags of calcium chloride, roughly.
You know, to do something different, you'd almost have to get like a trailer type of
Something.
sander, would you? Yeah.
Did all that thing got like a little brown pipe with a little rod on top, but full shake down to chloride.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would work out if it was mixed.
Plus you couldn't put enough in there to do the sidewalks if you had
Well, I
sand.
know we probably have Yakubac, I think.
Yeah. How long does it take roughly, if it's not a super big storm?
An hour.
About an hour to hit it.
Was it last year? That's when Jake was the thing there.
Yeah.
So I came in on Saturday afternoon, but skidoos came up as
Sidewalk.
I had a good 2.5 hours. I know a good 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
We had quite a bit of snow at the time too, but once they got it packed on there, it was just snow rolling.
Yeah.
But so far, we've been lucky with everything.
Yeah, I guess I don't think there's an option if you want to keep them in halfway decent shape. And you're only 3 years old this year? 2 years?
Yeah, 3.
3, yeah. No, I would say, I guess we're all in agreement on that one, we use,
Got that 550 we talked a few meetings back, I guess, about,
upgrading or, keeping them rotating in and out.
That's the next one, just, I got a quote from Vikings, on the 550 equipment. And this truck, this one here is with a side dump.
All rather than the,
Then, yeah. And you're- I don't know I could get a quote and see what the price would be different with saying or back, but the dump up in there and we all done it, or I've done it. And so I dump sitting down there with you and you go sideways, it's in the big picture, I think it's the way to go.
how much were they quoting you for that?
55.8, that's a plow in the side dump. And,
If you stayed with the vehicle you got, could you keep with the same equipment you have at present?
that'd be the front hitch. And the plow in front, which that's those all angle plows. I don't know I have to check into it, the wear and tear, you know, it's,
Right, they get 7 years old as much as you guys use that truck.
you know, it does a lot. You know, like tonight if it snowed, that's usually the one that goes out.
What did you
He's
say?
local. What's that?
What did you say the quote on that was?
55.8.
Okay.
So that's for a side dump, plow, side plow,
Yeah, it's-
you know,
yeah, and that side dump, your
Yeah.
senders.
everything's set up to go like the big truck. Pretty much,
Yeah.
just on the scale.
So
Gotta
they
be those-
definitely know how to do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound that bad.
What's that?
That doesn't sound that bad.
We used to buy them for that price for the big trucks,
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it's over 80 grand now, 80 something, but equipment.
used to be 54 to 59,000, depending on what you got.
We have a question from, do you wanna say it out loud, David? Do you have a question for Mo?
I could try, but it's a pretty bad question. Is that side dump still dump out the rear as well?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
just like the, our tandems over there now.
This full hydraulic brings it up, right?
Yeah.
Over to the track system.
Yeah. 2 pistons.
Yeah.
Put it all in, 1 piston in the front, dump it on.
And the 550 was heavy enough, this wasn't to do.
Yeah,
I mean, that's, I think, what's in all the city and town use a lot of, right?
town is on the town, I think that's pretty well all they got, I think one town.
Yeah.
I'll keep that down all late. The other thing, you know, just trying to steer is, we're really gonna figure your budget and what we're gonna do it. That, right now, they're telling me that, 2024, they're out signing people up. for
What's that?
equipment.
For
It's
trucks?
not- Yeah, this is Vikings, and put equipment on, they're out. And what he said is, the sooner, if it's something you're gonna do, sooner you
You come in,
get it in there,
yeah.
they can, like, your truck don't come in, you know, plan on your truck come in, don't come in, they slide into the slot, so.
And how old is that truck this year? It was a year old, it was a carryover when we bought it.
I think in 2016 or 17, I thought that would be mine, but one or two.
Right, but the truck itself was a carryover,
Yeah,
so it wasn't like we had it the full year that year.
Yeah.
I think we paid 47,000 for that truck. Let's see,
boy. No,
we'd have to look it up, but I can't
I
recall.
say, I think there's an arcade, I have a dump on it,
Yeah,
I have my plow equipment.
yeah. Well, like I say, we're getting there, start on the budget probably the next week or two, I assume, so.
Yeah. And so I wanted to also mention that, the money that we get from this plowing from the schools goes toward the small truck fund. And you had asked at some point if we could come up with a plan to increase the cost to the school. And had discussed in the last meeting doing that by looking at the road salary, average amount of time it takes to plow, and how much material is required. And Mo and I have not met to talk about that, so.
I got it, I see your text.
Yeah, it was last minute, and I do think that it would be worth a,
Might can't answer that
Conversation
question,
at a
so
different
it
time.
depends what kind of storm you got.
but in terms of equipment fund, we have, I think, over 100,000 in there. That's
Not for that truck.
not from the small truck fund.
Right.
That's 20 something thousand.
Right.
We have 2 trucks being paid off. One in not that next year, but the year after, so in that 2024, and one in 2025, and the yearly debt retirement on those combined is it's a little over $68,000.
Should be replacing those with new trucks, so that's almost a wash. as long as we got money put down on them, like we did those trucks. Those trucks had quite a bit put down on them. Okay, Mo, what else you got? Well, we're gonna be thinking about that one.
Okay, and probably I should get a quote from, right now we've been dealing with Hayes
Yeah.
on a truck too, where we kinda, Johnson kinda know where to go. I don't know, I know the availability, the same thing, they're
Right.
talking.
Yeah.
We're on the list right now.
Yeah.
You know, and if we don't take it, we don't take it, if we do.
Right.
Well,
Back on the schools, when do we need to submit a bill or a change?
We should do that as soon as we can, really. If we're going to increase the cost, we have to do that.
I think
Like
we
if-
really should look at that.
Oh, yeah, we need to we need to get some numbers together
Yeah.
and really be realistic and say, if you can find someone who'll do it cheaper for you,
Right.
we're all for it.
Cause that guy was here, that was summons, the city, they're contracted out, right?
You're right, it's town and city
It's
both.
town and city.
And they're both, public knowledge, it's not a
Yeah,
trade secret, I guess, or whatever you wanna call it.
The school requires, they're required to put it out to bid if any contract is increased more than 30%, which is actually the amount that we have for our contract with them is so small, that it really it wouldn't make sense to go lower than that's only a few dollars if you go, well, you know. So,
Well, and ours is kinda based too on the number of times we do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much, plowing and sanding,
Right.
but I'm sure these
Well,
other
yeah,
bids are
but-
a contractual deal for the year.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little different apples and oranges in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, legally, we need to go around and plow around the school, that's a town road. Then the parking lots and all that's their deal.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think you can get to that, like this week? Cause if not, let's
Yeah,
put
it's-
35% something, then.
yeah, Mo and I need to connect. I don't know the numbers of how many hours it takes to do that.
right, you know, the price of material's gone up,
I don't know the cost of.
gone up quite a bit, the salt's gone up quite a bit in the last few years,
Yeah, we haven't raised the rate in 5 years or something like that.
quite a while. Plus the price of fuel,
I was gonna say, price of fuel is a big part.
I
Well,
think
just the current federal
I think it'd be
reimbursement
more than
rate
35.
per hour on
Yeah, well, that's what I'm,
truck. I mean, the hourly reimbursable rate on a truck, just to have a truck doing something is almost $92 an hour. So that's, I mean, just in that, looking at it that way, it's,
so it'd be nice if it's possible before we do that budget thing, if we get a few numbers that contemplate in our heads. Okay, what else you got, Mo? Moving this thing along,
Nope.
that's it?
Okay.
Everybody happy?
So far, yeah,
That's a big plus,
yeah,
no major breakdowns or problems.
no,
And hopefully it keeps raining, you won't have to use much sand and salt.
yeah,
You haven't had to use too much so far, right?
no. No, temperature's been warm enough,
Yeah.
a little bit, very good. Back road been the same.
You had many trees blow down on the roadsides on your end of that?
No, not bad.
Well, I know I've been working, I'm sure it was like.
It'll wait till Wednesday. Wednesday is supposed to be 50-mile-an-hour winds.
I heard that from Jimmy town.
Yeah,
Stop bringing me back.
I just got Mom's woods about done. And I'm thinking, I don't know how many I cut up today and stuff. And I'm like, God, I hope it's don't come back through again. Getting old.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, good chance to be a few more now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm all,
Um,
go, so,
You're all happy, might as well go home.
thank you.
Linda, let's get you going.
Okay, well, I thought we were gonna clear sail through tax day without somebody
next month.
being
Yeah.
argumentative about the 8%. So I'm just going to recap. Taxes are due on the first Friday of November. Postmarks are accepted. Okay, so on the Friday, and I am here until 3 o'clock that Friday, I put a notice on the door saying only postmarks accepted. Go for the 4th. Go to the post office and make sure it's postmarked the 4th, because people pass and said, well, it's postmarked, but not the 4th. The drop box I tape up saying anything that's being left in here is going to be delinquent.
They're notified that right on the box.
Right on the box, it's taped up with painter's tape saying that, and the notice on the door says get a postmark. There was one, one payment in with the, ballots, because election day was a couple days later. That person got a delinquent notice. I hadn't heard from that person. The person I did finally hear from, was Tuesday. Postmarks available Friday, November 4th. When you go online, and just in case you're wondering, and make a payment to the town of Fairfield, it is time-stamped. They made their payment on November 7th at 15:45 and 16 seconds. So they made their payment. So the computer takes that payment and breaks it down between actual penalty and actual tax payment. And it's a 1% per month after. So I try to wait till the postmarks come in, because it takes a while, and then send out a delinquent notice to people that maybe didn't know they were delinquent and without the interest. So that sparked the conversation. They got the delinquent notice. And the penalty actually was $433.28. So that can spark a little conversation. So they weren't happy. Just letting you know, everybody that comes through the door, everybody that's not postmarked, everybody that goes online, everybody is treated the same. No exceptions. And it's 1% per month from the day it goes delinquent, not when you get the notice saying, hey, by the way, you know, this was dated, I think it was a week and a half later, the bills went out, you know, once we got, basically it's a courtesy to let them know, you know, I know they're not getting 30 days to pay that, but they're getting a time before they're gonna get the 1%. And the 1% just goes on the remaining tax balance. But anyway, they were it was a threatening phone call. They weren't happy with me, as per usual. When I don't say, oh, I'm sorry, let me take care of that. They said they knew select board members. I said, call select board members. Anyway, everybody is treated the same. Now, the good news though is, last year we were at 147,061 cents that went delinquent. This year, we're at $139,204.19. So we are down. And prior to the new year getting delinquent, we were down to 91.85. So we're under 10,000 on the previous years, which are getting taken care of pretty regularly. So we are down, total delinquents. On to the tax sale. I see there was a discussion regarding bidding on the tax sale. It's not $1. The minimum bid is the minimum amount due on taxes, fees, lawyer fees, everything. So it looks like it's gonna be in the neighborhood of $2,200 if the town wants to bid on that property on the 21st. But, and you have to have it in your minutes. So if it's something that you want to bid on, it needs to go into the minutes. So
like these current minutes?
yes, any minute. So
you can make a motion to go up to 20.
no, minimum bid.
Minimum bid,
Yeah.
if we choose to bid it.
Yes,
So then it's officially in the minutes.
yes.
I'd like to make a motion that would authorize us the ability to make a minimum bid.
I think it's just good common sense for backup, to be honest with you.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, someone's opposed. So that's in our minutes.
Okay, the other piece is, there was a notation about the tax sale account has a little over 18,000. Tax sale account is not town money. Tax sale account is last year when we had our tax sale, which as far as I know, it hasn't been redeemed and it's just barely been a year. So that money that's in that account, so what it was the taxes on the property, let's say were $1,000 and the person bidding bid $8,000, the overbid has to go into an interest-bearing account. Now, if the tax sale goes through and they didn't redeem their property, that goes to the person who lost their property. So the tax sale account money is not the town's money. That's just by
You get to take
states.
the money, the back taxes owed out of it. and then-
No, the back taxes were paid. This was the excess. This was the overbid of the tax money. But it's a state statute thing that it has to go in an interest-bearing account until either the property is redeemed or not redeemed, and then it goes to the person. Because essentially, what the buyer paid for that property was the fees and the back taxes plus an overpayment. So the overpayment will go to that person. So I just wanted to clarify, that's not the town's money.
Right.
And on to budgeting and holiday dinner, just if you want me to set up Kelly to cater something, it's time to figure out when we're gonna do that. And if you want a catered meal for the town employees.
Is there a date that would work for you, gentlemen?
We did like last year, December 9th or something like that. It was like
It was midweek.
midweek.
I think it was, I think in the past when I've catered them, it's been a Wednesday because that was.
Wednesday, like the second week before things get real busy and.
Yeah, so the Wednesday of December, would be, the first Wednesday of December is the 7th. And,
I would think you'd wanna start on it, just so we know where we're going. I mean, you won't get,
The 7th is next Wednesday, by the way.
you'd have rough fund balances, but you won't have final fund balances.
I
You
would
guys
go,
pretty
I
good
would
idea
go
where we're
14,
headed.
I'd go another week.
You
I'd
would?
go like
14?
15?
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
So do you want me to set up and is there anything, last year there was the 2 kinds of lasagnas, did you like that? Do you wanna do something different? Any preference?
ask these
I don't think
professional,
we're
ask these
here.
professional leaders.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. Whatever's easiest.
Okay, so, but you want it okay to make arrangements to have it catered?
Yeah, I would go along with it. One small thing we do and make sure that we get the town boys know when it is,
Yep.
so that they can come and enjoy it.
Okay, and the other piece, so December 14th, and the other piece is, I've been working with Nemrick to come up with a quote, cause so I went through, last week, went through 5 years of building permits, and, so we're close, so I'm hoping to have something in place to have a quote by the next meeting. And, there's, they working on it, so.
Well, I see that one of the current sales in town, I said, oh, that's the one they throw out.
You better hope, well, I got a couple in today that are just as scary on a different scale.
Proportion, right?
Different proportion, I
Is
mean,
that the house in East Fairfield that's sold there?
the one you're talking about is East Fairfield, but there's another one in East Fairfield too.
Right, just recently sold.
Yeah, just,
For what it was, for what I heard it went for, it's like, this is nuts.
yeah, there's one on Rug Road too, I mean, you can't chase sales, and the one that needs to get thrown out, if you get a person with enough money, they'll spend it, but that is in conservation, in all this stuff, and, it's a beautiful piece of property.
Right.
Good for him, good for them.
Quite a chunk of change.
Yes, but, what we had it in for, 650 and 2.1 million. You can't justify those, but a lot of the sales today are just crazy.
Some of these I've heard, it's like, with interest rates where they are, you really can still pay that kind of money for stuff, it's just kinda.
Well, I'm reading stuff with variable mortgage interest rates.
Crazy.
And I'm like looking at what the variable interest rate is on these things that I'm recording, and I'm thinking, okay. So anyway, they're crossing the finish line with getting everything looked at and finding quite a bit, and yeah. Overall, though, it's going well.
So they'll be within their
nobody's been shocked.
deadlines and all that stuff,
What's that?
they're gonna be within their deadlines and.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they seem to be, yeah, they're very thorough and very, so.
Well, it saves
I've
us,
been,
saves the listers that we do have a lot of grief, cause this is an outside bunch just looking at places and numbers.
well, the thing is, if it was an inside one, it wouldn't be getting done, so there's that. Anyway, and the week, the 19th through the 27th, that's my vacation week. Well, the 27th is the holiday, but the week of the 19th, I take the week of Christmas off as one of my vacation weeks, and it's just easier to close the office. And it's on the notice from day one that when I do the holidays up each year. 4th of July week is on there, the week I take off in August, and the Christmas week. So it's out there, it's on the website, it's on the door, it's not a surprise. So anyway, so
Is that all you've got?
it is.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
I don't have a dessert either, because
Get
you
out
know
of here.
what?
Get out of here.
Thanksgiving.
Get out of here.
There's not enough hours in the day. And
Thank you for the last one.
And that came out of my freezer, because usually I have something in the freezer. I have 2 cupcakes in the freezer. I think there was a piece of cheesecake in the refrigerator and a quarter piece of apple pie, so.
Oh, so we're
Purging after Thanksgiving, thank you,
So,
thank you.
next time.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.
I have just a few things and then we're gonna talk about budget.
A little bit, not long,
Yeah, so.
or I'm not gonna speak about it long.
The library made a revision prior to adopting their minutes for the meeting that took place jointly. They are the same, they adopted their minutes to be the same minutes that were written by our minute taker, but there's a substantive error. And so they wanted to make sure that in their minutes, they changed the library and the Friends are working on an MOU between them to clarify the partnership's financial dynamics to the library and the Friends are working on a gift and donation policy. They felt that that was important, so they did change their minutes. And I explained that we'd already approved those minutes, but that I would make a public, I'd make note publicly that was a different, they felt that was very different.
I thought there was 2 things. I thought they were gonna have an MOU, like between the select board and the library.
That's
Yeah.
also, yeah, they didn't change anything about that in the
Okay,
minutes. Yeah.
so there's an MOU between, we're gonna slowly develop an MOU between us and library. And
Yes,
then they're gonna work on a policy between the Friends.
that's right.
Okay.
So I've been working just before the holidays, Mary Schreindorfer came in, and found a few things, small things, I consider them small, she considers them small. I think they have to do with my eyesight, honestly. Like a 6 being a 5 or a 3 being a 0, different kinds of things. So, I am gonna need, Gavin, for you to look through this. These are I had mentioned it before, these are the changes that need to be made to warrants that we've already approved, but we need to reapprove them. So the differences are
You two gentlemen look
pretty minimal. The people who we were supposed to pay got paid the amount that they were supposed to get paid. But
That's good.
I found those errors after you had already signed the warrants. So when I made the change to get the checks printed, I didn't bring them back to you to get the new warrants signed because they were pretty small and I new girl problem. So I would appreciate just having a signature. And she also found one warrant, And we double checked in our financial policy that it has only 2 signatures, and we do need 3 signatures for the warrants, according to the financial policy.
But we can do them with 2.
I know, I've heard you say that a few times, so I made sure to
That's
go
what
back
we
and
were told in
looked.
the past. Who's changed this?
I didn't, it was there when it
Needed
was.
2 board members
We
if
can-
you weren't on an off-ball time. If 2 people approved it, we want 3.
If we want to change that, I think that, I don't know what statute says, but I think that we can look into it. I just go through, I didn't change it, so I don't know when it was changed.
I don't believe it's anything the board changed, because we would've, that was the reason we had it, so if they could get 2 lined up, things could get done.
Okay.
And they may have changed it somewhere, but I don't recall it going through a meeting.
Okay. I'll look into, if that's the preference of the select board, I can look into,
I'm just telling you how it's been done in the past, so if they could get 2 people to sign it, so like checks get out to the
I mean,
guys
it's
in
much
time and all those kinds of things.
So I can look at what I was gonna say is I can definitely look into whether or not there's a reason why it's 3 instead of 2, and then, like legally, and then we can make a motion to change that back to 2 if that's something that the select board would prefer. And I don't mind either way as long as, I can get the checks printed. Before I forget, David wanted to know about insurance, so I am still waiting on the insurance quote from VLCT. So I've been waiting on that, and I'll be putting a bug in their ear again tomorrow. So hopefully we get that squared away. I definitely will have it squared away before the budget meeting next week. I mean, I assuming that, God willing. So David, does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay. So Melanie is on maternity leave. I don't have any news from her about any of how that went.
She had a baby girl on the morning of the 26th at 5:42.
So she's on maternity
They're all
leave.
healthy.
Is that number 2? Is that number 2?
Yes,
Number 2, right?
yes.
So I'm unclear about how zoning works, but I assume you'll take on some of those details.
Demetrius and I will handle.
Okay. Snow and plowing rates, and then the budget. So I wanted to make sure to give you the budget. David has a copy of it. Where we are to date. So that's it for updates. Do you have any questions for me? No? So.
Rest up for the next month and a half or whatever.
No, it's already starting. Preparations for our audit. Our audit is scheduled in January, so preparations for the audit are.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, so the audit with the preparation for the next budget.
I know. And closing out the grants, so I'm closing out as many grants as I can right now.
Well, one of you gentlemen make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept
The
the
minutes and the revised minutes. I mean, the minutes, right? Revised
Revised warrants.
Warrants and revised warrants, excuse me.
Those need to be 2 separate.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
So you make a motion to do the minutes, current minutes, you second it?
I got a correction. I mean,
Okay.
I
You gotta second it and then we'll.
Okay, I'll second.
Yep, now what would
Well,
you
my
like?
correction, my addition is Jason Day said that you cannot see the pond from the proposed wing site. And that was,
So you'd like this amended to say you can see them?
just.
Or just
state-
note out?
just state,
See Fairfield Pond from the ground, you'd have to get up in the air in order to see. Although I have been up there since the leaves have fallen, so that I might be able to see more, it's hard to say.
so that's my,
So what would you like inserted in there?
just Jason Day said that you cannot see the pond from the proposed wind site.
So it's in the
You
minutes?
want that added in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
probably should be able to do that. Have you got that, Melissa? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now that's added, can we, all in favor of it?
Aye.
Yep, nobody opposed. And then we need a motion to do the amendment, change of the warrants for what time period?
There are multiple changes
I'll make a motion to.
Change the warrants that were
Change-
required.
Change warrants.
by the local auditors.
Seconded?
Second.
Yep, then all in favor, so get that one done. Okay, what else we got on this?
And then did you do a motion on the regular warrants?
No.
No. We can do that one too. You make a motion to the regular warrants of this current,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed, so that's done. Most done.
So I gave you two documents. One is green at the top, and that's the current budget status report. And one is pink at the top, which is the comparative budget report. Normally we use the comparative budget report with budget planning, so it shows you what we budgeted for the last 3 years. And then there's a line for 2023. And the current budget status report that you have in front of you doesn't include the second accounts payable and payroll that you just signed. So tomorrow things will look different than today. Just going down through, I wanted to let you know that I did put the 2,400,000, I'm sorry, 2 million.
Which one are we on?
On the budget status report.
Okay.
So just looking at the current property taxes line.
Just so you're on the green.
The green, yes. So it shows the actual revenue of the current property taxes at $1,049,081.61. That is after the transfer to the school property tax. We have a $2,494,619.80 transfer that needs to be made. Currently, it's in a liability account, so that we can just get it out of this budget, but I do need an approval to make that transfer. I'd like to make the transfer into their account of the amount of $2,494,619.80. That's the,
What line are you actually on?
so I'm looking at the current property taxes, is the first 10,500,10,000. So when you look at the actual, we have the budget of $1,321,090. The actual to date is $1,049,081.61. That number, the actual, is not, that's after we've removed money and given it to the school. So currently it's not showing up on here, and I haven't made a money transfer to them. But it's not showing up on here because it's in a liability account. I just wanted to make sure that when we were looking at this budget, we recognize that the 10 categories, the general fund, shouldn't have that in it because it goes to the school. So that's the explanation for that actual number, and then the request that I have from you all is that we transfer the school property taxes in the amount that was requested. And this is after, the state, it really the bill comes from the state.
So, do you need a motion for that, or?
I'm not sure, but I think it's a big chunk of money, and I'd rather
Yeah.
not
Legally
make that money.
You're legally obligated to do it.
We are legally obligated, I just tell you.
I think you're getting carried away with yourself, I'll be
Okay,
honest.
so I'll tell you.
You have
if
to
it's
do
done.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna make that transfer tomorrow then.
We support you.
Thank you very much. So at the moment, we are at 99% of the tax revenue that we had anticipated. And then just going all the way down to grant revenue 10.5, 25, 62, it's about halfway down through the list miscellaneous. So 10.5, 25, 62. So grant revenue state funds. That $11,044.95 is the reimbursement from the grants and aid that was used to cover the salaries, the staff salaries for that project.
Okay.
You'll also go down to, when you look at the where is it? The transfer in line, which is 10.5002590, it's 4 lines up from the bottom, transfer in. In the actual, you'll see 38,956.32, and that is the paving fund transfer for the overage. So I just wanted to point those out specifically because we had not budgeted those, but they are in there as revenue. The next page, it's on the back of the first page. I wanted to make sure that you know that between now and the next meeting, I'm going to process stipends for all of the select board members and all of the elected officials that require stipends so that the actuals are accurate at this point. And those will be in the next, in our next AP and payroll. Let's see.
When do you need that by?
I should do that as soon as possible. I wanna get it into the next payroll. So usually payroll people get to me the Friday before payroll. So the interest expense line down at 10.6.10.23 is high. We had budgeted 1,000. We're up to $5,273.65. This interest includes the approved interest that we've been paying through AP for the grant anticipation loan. So that is why that number is high. Last year it was also high. At the end of the year, we'd spent $2,052. So this is over double, and I think it's mostly because of the grant anticipation loan interest that we're paying.
You mean the grant on that bridge?
Yes, so that will be reimbursed when we get the reimbursement from FEMA. That should be reimbursable. And I already mentioned, I wanted to make sure that you knew that the debt retirement line 10.6.10.90, this upcoming year, we're gonna need to raise that number. Currently, we have, with the budget was 53,000 for this year, and for next year, it's gonna need to be closer to $68,100.
Debt retirement for what?
That would be debt retirement for the 2021 truck and the 2023 truck for next year. This year, it was the 2021 truck and the salt shed. We paid off the salt shed this year.
Right.
So any questions?
That's the one I'm thinking, we should be taking that same money, put it into your equipment fund. So you're actually putting enough money in to rotate these vehicles. If you got a surplus at the end of the year, choose what the hell you wanna do with it. This way you know you got enough money to rotate that equipment like you've set up. So we don't wind up with a bunch of stuff that's worn out, can't afford to replace, can't afford to repair it.
Any questions so far about the budget? This is boring, but I think it's important. It's just, I want everybody to be informed before we.
I think one you need to take it out, it's just kind of waste of space, it's this logging expense.
The logging.
That was a one-shot deal.
So.
Town land.
by law, I have to look back and it needs to not have been used, that account not have been used for 3 years.
It has been over 3 years.
Okay, so
That was used back when the town garage was built. So I don't know how long that is, 15 years probably.
Alright, I can remove that. Anything else up to now?
Another one, discount on taxes should be gone. Can't discount taxes anymore. Haven't for several years because, well, part of it was the one that became a state education tax. You had to pay the full freight no matter what. I think that was approved at town meeting, eliminating discount on taxes.
Okay. So I'll remove that one too. Again, I have to look back and make sure it's cleared out of our account, our NEMRIC accounts. And it won't clear out until 3 years, so I can remove it then.
Yeah, and I think another one here, 250 celebration,
Yeah, that should be gone.
that should be gone.
When was
If we're
that?
trying to clean it up, probably 10 years ago.
Okay. Anything else in there that you think?
Those are the ones I can just see right off. You'll have this all marked up and have the next meeting.
Yeah, and this is just I want you to know where we are with this budget before we get there, so.
Yeah. Good idea.
So the health insurance line, if we go to the third page, 3 of 8, looking at the town office, health insurance line. And that's 10/6/15/16. We had budgeted 19,300. And there was one more full-time employee who was added to our plan this year. So that amount has been, it exceeded that all so far by,
Which one are you on now?
it's the health insurance line, 10/6/15/16. So the health insurance line, we had budgeted 19,300. It's about halfway down through the town office's budget.
And who's the full-time one?
So the only two on full-time here in this office is Linda and I. Linda had not previously been on health insurance with us. And I don't see that changing for the next year, so we're gonna have to think about that for that line. I'll also have next week, the amount increase for the health insurance, so that we can talk about that as well. So the rest of it is pretty straightforward until we get to page 6 of 8. Just wanted to make sure that in 10/6/60, all of the appropriations, that I will be making that transfer as well. So these are the approved appropriations from the town meetings, the town meeting minutes. The fire department appropriation requires an audit prior to that taking place. And I was talking with our auditors last week, and I don't think that that's taken place yet. David, do you know if that's taken place at this point?
Must be fell asleep on it.
Was that a,
No, I'm here, but I'm like after the computer sometimes. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but after me to get the government stuff done too, so.
Okay.
was that a requirement imposed as a result of the audit first,
So it's written, as it's written on our.
on an annual basis?
Yeah, on the ballot, every year in the town meeting warrant, it says that it's based on their audit. So I get the green light from them, and then I can do that. And page 7 of 8, I look at expenses and I look at the time cards and I determine based on what I understand from those documents what we are doing with our money. And this is a conversation with Mo as well. I have been looking at things, I believe, differently than in the past, and I need to figure out the labor costs in construction is very low. And the labor cost, so if you look at the summer maintenance town roads, which is the 1070 category, the 107 category, and the construction roads is the 10720 and 10730. Those two categories. I added the amount that we spent up from those two categories, and we've spent 97% of what we said we were going to budget. But in summer maintenance, we spent 118% of the budget, and in construction, it's 66% of the budget. And I've gone back on a bunch of these records, but while we've been doing the pre-audit stuff, and I'm not really sure which part I'm not understanding in terms of the difference between construction and summer maintenance. There's, I believe, I think it's just, I'm not sure my brain is connected the way it's supposed to around this. I don't, or maybe just a different take on this, but I just wanted to point that out, that we're not actually between these two, categories. We're not actually off budget. We're on budget.
Right.
We're 97%, but this
Just
one
where you're showing
it's
being
just-
allocated, right?
yeah, it's just showing wrong differently this year versus
When
previous
they give
years.
you the time cards, are they listed that way?
They do, but if I see grading on a time card, and it all has to be itemized on their time cards, every payroll, everything's itemized. If, for example, if I see grading, then I would call that summer maintenance, but maybe it was actually construction,
It's
because,
construction, if they're putting new gravel down, they have to grade it out.
right, but it's also maintaining our roads during the summer,
Yeah,
correct?
if they're doing a construction job on the road, they have to grade it. They have to bring the fill and grade it to set it to grade.
She's saying if it's just a regular grading.
Yeah, so if I see grading and there's nothing there that tells me that it's a construction project, I've been
So they
assuming
need to put it when they do it.
when it's a construction thing.
Yeah. So that's just a paperwork thing, basically.
Yeah,
Making sure they put it on their cards that way.
right. So at this point, however, I'm in a place where, because it's in time card land mostly, I believe.
What benefit is it for us to have two categories like that?
There was a reason they broke it
I
down.
think it's pretty important, because when we are doing construction, that sometimes is the money that we use to match grants, but we don't necessarily match grants with summer maintenance.
And you get so much a mile from the state, and that state aid based on the number of roads, the work you do. So they may come in and look at roads and say, what have you done to this?
Yeah,
And they may want to break down what you've done to that road the last 3 years.
they
And
actually,
with this way here, you can go back and say, well, this is the hours, the trucks, the gravel, culverts changed.
Yeah.
So it's a way of basically verifying what you've done.
and they do an audit every year. I did an audit with them last year, and there are also a whole bunch of other categories that we don't have, that we don't need. And it becomes more and more complicated when you add those categories, so.
Keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question. So I have one thing I need to figure out in terms of accounting. So we had our surplus transfer to equipment, and that was $81,046 last year. So that transfer went into the equipment fund because it was the surplus that we had at the end of last year. We didn't know that amount until after the beginning of this year. So when I asked originally in the beginning of the year how we can account for that revenue in our budget so that it's an in and out, you know, we wanna see the revenue of 81,000 and then the expense of 81,000 in the same budget, so, cause it's really an in and out, it's not something that this budget should have to pay for. At the beginning of the year, I got an answer that didn't make sense. Now I think I have an idea of how we can get that revenue to reflect. The answer that I had at the beginning of the year was that we can't actually touch the fund balance account in our computer because it's connected to the audit. I get that, that makes sense. But I believe there has to be a way for us to be able to show that, because we do have it in our, when you look at the balance sheet, it's there. You know, not the balance sheet, but yeah, the balance sheet, you know, that's where we look at the assets and the liabilities and the previous year fund balances and this fund balance. I think that there's a way, so I just wanted to point out that surplus transfer to equipment kind of throws off the budget right now. And I wanna see if I can figure out a way to fix that. Because at the moment, we're at 140% of the equipment fund, of the equipment section of this budget. But actually, if you take that out, it's 102%, so it would be in line with what we had budgeted. So I'm gonna be working with Amanda and Nemrick on that one. So that's basically the walkthrough of the budget status. There were a couple other things I wanted to say, but let's see. This is actually not the budget status, but do you have any questions about about the budget status at the moment?
You got all the salt costs, is that in?
Not all of the salt is in.
Is there
Cargill.
a big chunk?
It just keeps coming and coming. I'm not sure where we are exactly, but,
Cause they were gonna try to stockpile.
mhm.
Of course, they were worried about that possible strike.
Yeah.
I don't know how haven't heard much of that of late, do you know anything
Oh,
about
they're
it?
still talking about it.
Yeah, it's coming.
They're talking about it.
It's a,
Brinkmanship.
did one group sign a thing and one didn't?
Two of them did, so.
Two didn't? Out of how many?
Well, they're the ones that are on strike, they're the ones that are pushing it, so.
Yeah,
They're the ones.
big thing was time off.
But Congress can impose, right? And under the Railway Labor Act, I think Congress,
I don't think they will, though.
they could, but
They
probably
could,
right.
yeah.
Land Ducks, they'd probably be hesitant.
Right.
So,
They will after.
Right,
Sure.
they'll be, right. There's president can intervene too, right?
Yeah, right.
so the only other thing that I wanted to mention is that the last select board meeting, you asked if I could do some research on cost of living adjustment rates. And
I don't know.
I just wanted to let you know that the 2023 Social Security cost of living adjustment is 8.7%, which is the highest increase since 1981. However, the federal projected pay raise for 2023 is 4.6%. Yeah.
Cause you're starting at smaller numbers,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you look dollar and cents wise, it's like, if you had $1 and I gave you another one, you've had 100% raise, but if you had $400,000 and I gave you 100,000, wouldn't look anywhere as, you know, I think that's kinda how that crap goes.
Yeah, it's
Well, it could also, cynically, it could be, what's the bigger voting block? Federal
Sure.
employees or retirees?
so the
But I
last,
think the Social Security is by a 40-year-old law that says you will,
Right.
it's a formula.
Yeah.
the last year, the 2022, where are we? Cost of living adjustment, the COLA for Social Security was 5.9%, and Fairfield's adjustment for employees was also 5.9%. The actual inflation cost of living rate according to the responsible federal budget predicts that it's 10.8%. So the Social Security cost of living adjustment is based on what the predicted amount is, and that's 10.8%. I doubt they wanted to go any higher. And
So on our, what would we say, the 12th? Or, so as we approach the budget workshop,
Yep.
to the degree possible, and I think you did this last year, but so we'll have all our, you know, expenditures, and then we're gonna have personnel.
Right.
So it would be helpful to kind of have a format so that as we start to think about the overall budget impact, you kind of carry forward the salt and the road construction, all those, and then we kind of can do the math then of cost of living -1, +1, and the I mean, be ready to help us through like the overall budget impact as we go through a couple different scenarios, I think.
Okay. I can make a handy dandy spreadsheet.
Well, yeah, to the degree possible, but I think that's kind of what we're.
Yep.
It would be helpful to kind of.
Okay. And that's basically it for this. I wanted to make sure we have a plan for budget planning, and it sounds like we do, so. That's all for the
So you think we'll go through the rest of the month with the budget we have?
Yes, so what I have, after all of the stipends and payroll and the fire department and the appropriation earnings, that's $113,490. Our current fund balance is $166,643.
Did you get that salt coming out?
So there's still accounts payable that needs to go out, and I again want to figure out that that last year's fund balance transfer to look at how that revenue can be reflected in the budget, because we do have the money. Money is not a problem. It's just making sure that the accounting is correct so that we are showing the accurate amount of what we're spending out of the general fund. So yes, there's money.
So have you had Jonathan assist you on much of anything of late?
No, he's gonna be coming in and we're helping me with the FEMA grant, and that's basically it.
Right, because remember we had a contractual agreement with him for a while. I was just wondering how much we were making use of that.
Not much. I was hoping that he would do a big chunk of that during the FEMA closeout, because that's new for me.
Yeah.
And I do have a meeting next week with Stantec so that we can, that's actually this Thursday, so that with all of the information that they have, they've been taking the pictures and doing the testing and making sure that all the accounts payable is clear and the numbers are right they're the clerk of the works for this stuff. So the transfer of all of that documentation will be coming to me next week. So we should have a pretty easy closeout once I have that information from them.
Okay, someone make a motion to adjourn.
Is that we got? I make a motion we adjourn.
Okay,
A second.
off we go.